Jian Wushuang and his parents did not stay at Tang of the East for long. Next stop, they went to the star Foggy Sea. He had become a disciple of the lineage of stars there, learnt the secret skills of Star Palace, and met King of Venomous Worms. The star Foggy Sea was still a dangerous place managed by two people. They were Lord Spirit Sound and King of Venomous Worms. King of Venomous Worms had long stopped leeching off of Jian Wushuang and stayed at Star Foggy Sea. Occasionally, he would morph into a human and roam around Greenfire World. The few drops of ancient clan blood essence were enough for him to live on for a long period of time. As for Lord Spirit Sound was from the ancient era, and Jian Wushuang was sure that she was not the insignificant character she claimed to be. Lord Spirit Sound was under the 7-star Black Sect camp. Only the fittest survived that war. Lord Spirit Sound should be no exception. But if Lord Spirit Sound was not willing to divulge her identity and abilities, Jian Wushuang would not force the matter. Lord Spirit Sound had stayed in the Star Foggy Sea ever since. They spun around without bothering either of them and left. Next, he was at the Firmament Territory. Firmament Territory seemed like a humble frontier in the Greenfire world, but it meant worlds to Jian Wushuang. It was where the ancient sect was. The ancient sect was the sect Jian Wushuang had truly joined besides the lineage of Star, and he had always felt a sense of belonging there. There, he had met his master Xianxia, and his life had changed since. Even then, he was confused about why Xianxia appeared within the ancient sect, and why he had taken him as his disciple. He had never understood it, but he knew for sure that he would not be the man he was without his master. Ancient sect was in the middle of a large mountain range. He stood on the void above the ancient sect, watching over everything. Ever since Greenfire World's cultivating environment had changed tremendously, every frontier had been affected, and Firmament Territory was no exception. Thinking back, there had only been 4 Dao Masters at Ancient Sect, and they were considered extremely strong. Now, Dao Masters, they were nothing more than ants. Greenfire World now had countless cultivators of Dao Master level and above. They even had plentiful Heaven Masters, Sector Gods, and Real Gods. Ancient Sect has managed to remain standing after all those years not only due to Jian Wushuang, but because they had 3 Almighties. One of them was his brother Shui Lingtian. He had 3 clan brothers, but after the war between the Jin Kingdom, only Shui Lingtian had survived. He now held a high position within the Greenfire world. Next was Jian Wushuang's own lineal disciple Lin Lan. Lin Lan had limited talents. His original limit had been at Real God. But she had an incredible master, and Jian Wushuang doted on her a lot. Jian Wushuang had gone through several methods to help her break through and had finally helped her reach Sir God after consuming a high-level elixir found by Wang Yuan. But Jian Wushuang would only help her up to the Sir God level. Jian Wushuang could make her an Emperor God with enough resources, but it was not necessary. Being a Sir God was enough for her to roam the eternal chaotic world. Wushuang, you want to go down and take a look? Jian Nantian asked. Jian Nantian and Ji Wuming had been beside Jian Wushuang for some time but realized he had not moved an inch. It's fine. Jian Wushuang waved his hand. There was no need to interact with the ancient sect cultivators. He made frequent contact with Shui Lingtian and Lin Lan anyway. Next, let's head to Ancient Worlds, Jian Wushuang said. Ancient Worlds? Nanyang Land. Jian Nantian flinched. Nanyang Land was where they had been born. And the Sword Marquee Mansion, the Sword Pavilion. Jian Wushuang remembered that when he was young, he had trained like mad to take over from his father as Master of Sword Pavilion. The last time he had been there, he had known that the Sword Marquee Mansion in Nanyang Land had been eradicated, but its successors had remained. Jian Wushuang and his parents made their way there and started searching. Even after countless generations, they could sense them via bloodline. Not long after, they found the descendants of the Sword Marquee Mansion. Unexpectedly, they came to a large imperial city of a great dynasty. His descendants, the Jian clan, were the royal family. They were in their prime. Not bad, huh? Jian Nantian looked at the imperial city from above with interest. I requested the ancient sect to take care of the descendants, to make sure the lineage does not end. They should have followed my request and nothing more. Really impressive that they could make a dynasty out of it. Jian Wushuang laughed. The last time he had been at the ancient worlds, only a few people of the Sword Marquis Mansion survived, and they were mediocre. But after a few thousands of years, everything had changed. Not only had the Sword Marquis Mansion lineage passed things down, but they also created a dynasty. It's a shame they won't recognize us ancestors, Jian Nantian said. Of course, Jian Wushuang smiled. Tens of thousands of years was not considered too long at Greenfire World or Eternal Chaotic World, but it was too long for the ancient worlds. The Sword Marquis Mansion had seen countless generations across those years. Of course, the descendants would not know about them. They would not know about the Sword Marquis Mansion or Jian Wushuang. The person they worshipped now was the great man that started the dynasty 1,000 years ago. Despite Jian Wushuang being endlessly stronger than that clansman, they did not recognize him. Let's go. Jian Wushuang waved his hand and they left. Jian Wushuang and his parents went to visit many other places. 200 years passed in the blink of an eye. Green Fire World, Wushuang City. A large number of people were gathered there. All of the higher-ups from the Green Fire World and Lineage of Stars were there. Jian Wushuang was in front of everyone. Sword Emperor, Emperor Bai wants to tell you that the Sanctuary Alliance is ready. Once you are ready to go, they can send you to Heaven's Horizon immediately. One of the Emperor God from Sanctuary Alliance said. Understood. Jian Wushuang nodded his head as he looked at the people in front of him. Among these people were his family members, his brothers, his good friends, and his disciples. Jian Wushuang looked at them with mixed feelings. Brother, Wang Yuan said as he gave Jian Wushuang a bottle of elixir. Wang Yuan, what is this? Jian Wushuang asked, curious. There are 2 elixirs inside this bottle. Took me some effort to make it. Take it. You might need it at Heaven's Horizon, Wang Yuan said. Jian Wushuang opened the bottle in disbelief. He was stunned when he saw the 2 elixirs. Both the elixirs were cream in color and radiated a seductive fragrance. Many experts yearned to have these elixirs. Jian Wushuang recognized this type of elixir. 7 Treasure Divine Elixir. Jian Wushuang was pleasantly surprised. He had had of these elixirs a long time ago. Emperor Bai had given him one when he first sneaked into the 3 Emperors' world, so he could use it just in case his life was in danger. However, Jian Wushuang had still not made use of it. Now Wang Yuan was giving him 2 of these elixirs. Back in the ancient past, the 7 Treasure Divine Elixir was an extremely high-grade elixir and was very beneficial for Jian Wushuang. This elixir recovered divine power extremely quickly. When Jian Wushuang was still in the first phase of the 7th step inverse cultivation, one of these elixirs was enough for him to recover all of his divine power. Now that he was in the ultimate phase of the 7th step inverse cultivation, he had much more divine power than before. However, the 7 Treasure Divine Elixir was still an extremely useful elixir. Jian Wushuang estimated that all of his divine power could be recovered if he took all 3 7 Treasure Divine Elixirs at the same time. Divine power was extremely important for Jian Wushuang as he was in the 7th step inverse cultivation and he possessed the perfect chaotic holy body. If he could recover most of his divine power within a short period of time, it would be equivalent to him having many extra lives. Wang Yuan, older brother, since when can you make such an incredible elixir? Jian Wushuang asked Wang Yuan in disbelief. Sigh. I wanted to try to make this elixir a long time ago, but I always failed to do so. Recently, I locked myself in the secret room and swore that I would only leave after making at least one of the 7 Treasure Divine Elixirs. I was pretty lucky as I made 2. Wang Yuan smiled. Jian Wushuang heard this and felt really grateful. He knew that Wang Yuan was a very easygoing and lazy man. He was considered the best alchemist in the eternal chaotic world. When people looked for him for his service, he would not bother with them. Even if he agreed because his clients offered him sufficient rewards, he would only make the elixir in his own time. Jian Wushuang thought that Wang Yuan would not try to make the 7 Treasure Divine Elixir, as he had already failed several times. However, Wang Yuan had actually forced himself into a secret room to focus on making this elixir. Jian Wushuang knew that Wang Yuan had done this as Wang Yuan had gotten to know from Emperor Bai that the 7-treasure divine elixir would be an extremely useful elixir for him. When Jian Wushuang's soul was severely injured and he had gone into deep slumber, Wang Yuan had spent more than 20,000 years making the ice soul elixir just so that he could recover. Without a doubt, Wang Yuan viewed Jian Wushuang as a true brother. "Thank you, older brother Wang Yuan." Jian Wushuang smiled. "Haha, we are brothers. Why are you so polite?" Wang Yuan smiled casually. "Please return early, bro," Su Rou said with a serious tone. As Jian Wushuang's brother and sister, Su Rou and Wang Yuan both hoped that Jian Wushuang could bring his wife back. After all, Su Rou was not an alchemist like Wang Yuan. All she could do was give him her good wishes. For Jian Wushuang, that was more than enough. "Father, mother, all of you, I shall be on my way." Jian Wushuang waved everyone goodbye as he turned and left. Everyone there had mixed emotions as they watched him leave. "My dear husband, why do I feel like he will not return?" Ji Wuming knitted her eyebrows and said, "What are you talking about? You and I both know how capable Wushuang is. Who in this heaven and earth could beat him? He will definitely come back. Trust me." Jian Nantian comforted her gently. "Yes." Ji Wuming nodded her head. Even though Jian Nantian had spoken firmly, he too was not confident in what he'd just said. Even he had the feeling that Jian Wushuang would not return. After Jian Wushuang left the Green Fire world, he headed straight for Thunderbolt Island. Numerous great emperors had already gathered on Thunderbolt Island. These great emperors like King Chenxing, King Luoyu and Black Dragon Emperor came from the special tribes, and there were some from the Sanctuary Alliance as well. News of a link passage opening up at Heaven's horizon spread like wildfire across the higher-ups in the Eternal Chaotic World. Many of the great emperors from the Eternal Chaotic World would not miss their chance to see it. Whoosh! When Jian Wushuang appeared on Thunderbolt Island, many of the great emperors looked at him respectfully. "Sword Emperor! Ancient God Emperor!" Everyone greeted Jian Wushuang. He nodded his head lightly as he scanned the crowd. However, his gaze paused on Black Dragon Emperor for a short while before moving on. Black Dragon Emperor had a cold aura. She looked at Jian Wushuang with mixed feelings. Everyone knew that she liked Jian Wushuang, but it was a pity he could not love another woman anymore. After Jian Wushuang had rejected her many years ago, she had given up on him. However, she was curious about who Jian Wushuang's wife was and why he kept thinking about her. Jian Wushuang was here for his wife. "Jian Wushuang, you're here," Emperor Bai said as he looked at him. "Yes. The linkway to Heaven's horizon should open any time now. Let us not waste time and go." Jian Wushuang nodded his head slightly and said, "All right, let's go." Emperor Bai ordered as they left for Heaven's horizon. This was the outermost area of the Eternal Chaotic World. This was where heaven and earth ended. Here, there was no life, no mountains or valleys. It was just a space that was dark and misty. This was different from the dark space within the Eternal Chaotic World. The dark space was extremely vast and seemed endless. On the other hand, there was a limit as there was black mist here. It seemed as though there were restrictions in this dark mist that completely blocked off the Eternal Chaotic World and the absolute beginning divine world. Jian Wushuang and the other experts took a spaceship and set off from Thunderbolt Island, reached their destination quickly. "Is that Heaven's horizon?" Jian Wushuang stood as he looked at the dark mist in the distance. The dark mist looked so fragile and weak that a gale could simply disperse it. In reality, no ordinary man could open this passageway. "Here is the place," Emperor Bai said with a very serious tone. "This is where the Eternal Chaotic World ends." Many years ago during the First Era, many experts from the absolute beginning divine world opened a passageway here and sent in a wave of experts. Most of them were in the divine demon realm. There were also some who were more powerful. That battle was extremely tragic. In that era, countless experts and great emperors sacrificed their lives just to keep this world safe. Now, the passageway is about to open again. Who knows if the people over in the absolute beginning divine world will send in another wave of experts. If another wave comes, it will be a disaster for the Eternal Chaotic World, as the threat is even greater than that of the three emperors world back in the past. The great emperors turned pale when they heard what Emperor Bai said. After all these years, they had gotten to know certain secrets from the first era and the ancient past from the experts from the ancient past who had awakened. They knew why the first era had ended. They feared the absolute beginning divine world. Do not worry. The reason why the superpowers from the absolute beginning divine world opened this passageway is so that those experts from the ancient past who awakened can return. They will not completely destroy the eternal chaotic world, Jian Wushuang said. He had discussed this matter with Emperor 13 and One-Star Man and come to that conclusion. Emperor 13 and One-Star Man confirmed this fact, and Emperor 13 sounded very certain. As a man who could go up against the Master of Holy Land, if Emperor 13 said that the absolute beginning divine world would not send in any experts, he should be right. Looks like we are early. Up till now, no expert from the ancient past who awakened has come, the Abysmal Saint Master said. The passageway should open in a few days. It is normal for these experts to not come at this time. Let us wait patiently. They should be here soon, Ancestor Tianchen said. Yes, let us wait, Emperor Bai said. The great emperors from the eternal chaotic world started to wait in this space patiently. Two figures appeared in the distance as they headed towards them at a very fast speed. Here they are. Two experts from the ancient past. The great emperors from the eternal chaotic world looked over the two figures who were heading closer. One was an elder with red hair, while the other was a woman with blue clothes. Their auras were far stronger than that of any ordinary great emperor. Without a doubt, they were experts from the ancient past. They noticed the presence of Jian Wushuang and experts after they reached heaven's horizon. They are from Sanctuary Alliance. Emperor Bai. And that man standing right at the front is Sword Emperor. The elder with red hair and the woman in blue clothes turned pale. They were fearful of Jian Wushuang and Emperor Bai. Both of them were ordinary experts in the divine demon realm. Under the restriction of heaven and earth, the fighting power they had was similar to that of an ordinary stage 3 great emperor. They were nothing compared to Jian Wushuang and Emperor Bai. 3,900 years ago, Jian Wushuang had massacred 11 experts in the divine demon realm. We must be careful. Let us not go over there. If Emperor Bai or the Sword Emperor head towards us, we shall escape immediately. The elder man with red hair said. Yes. The woman in blue clothes nodded her head. They did not know why the group of great emperors from Sanctuary Alliance came to heaven's horizon. They had to be cautious. After all, they would not joke around when their lives were at stake. However, it was evident that Jian Wushuang and Emperor Bai did not want to attack them. They were just gathered there, waiting. Time passed in the blink of an eye. More and more experts reached heaven's horizon. 3 days passed. There was not much time left before the passageway would open. Those experts who wished to leave using the passageway had all reached it. In the dark space before heaven's horizon, figures filled the entire space. Some were gathered in groups, while others gathered in pairs. One could see hundreds of experts in a single glance. So many people. These people are all experts from the ancient past. The weakest among them have the fighting power of a stage 3 great emperor. They are much stronger than us. I have carefully counted. There are 138 experts. 138? Oh my God! The great emperors from the eternal chaotic world felt as though there was something stuck in their dry throats. Simply thinking of 138 experts with at least the fighting power of a stage 3 great emperor could make one's hair stand on end. Within the eternal chaotic world, only Jian Wushuang, Emperor Bai and Jian Yi had the fighting power of a stage 3 great emperor. Jian Yi also came from the ancient past. Luckily, Emperor Bai and the Sword Emperor are around as deterrents. If these experts go wild, Ancestor Tianchen said. Indeed, 138 experts from the ancient past would be disastrous for the eternal chaotic world if Jian Wushuang and Emperor Bai were not around. Without them, the Sanctuary Alliance would have no way of controlling these experts. The great emperors from the eternal chaotic world felt glad that they had these two incredibly powerful people as their leaders. While the great emperors from the eternal chaotic world were looking at the experts from the ancient past, the 138 experts were also studying them with interest. Are those experts from the Sanctuary Alliance? Yes. The two leaders, Emperor Bai and Sword Emperor, are incredibly powerful people. Humph. Incredible? Only in this heaven and earth. If they were in the absolute beginning divine world, they would be nothing without the restriction of heaven and earth. Looks like Sanctuary Alliance also knows that the passageway is about to open at heaven's horizon. Why are they here? Who knows? They can do whatever they want as long as they do not stop us from returning to the absolute beginning divine world. We did follow the rules within heaven and earth. We did not provoke Sanctuary Alliance at all. They have no reason to stop us. Even if they want to stop us, they must have the ability to do so. That is true. The experts from the ancient past chatted casually. They did not hide their disdain towards the great emperors from Sanctuary Alliance. Many of them did not even take Emperor Bai and Jian Wushuang seriously. Those experts from the ancient past only feared Emperor Bai and Jian Wushuang due to the presence of restrictions of heaven and earth. Without it, they would be nothing. Even though the great emperors from the eternal chaotic world were angry at the disdainful comments, they did not dare to act out. The passageway is about to open, but the master of the Holocaust sect has yet to appear. Emperor Bai knitted his eyebrows tightly and said, "No hurry. Let us wait patiently," Jian Wushuang said calmly. He had a lot of patience. He knew that Lung Ruxue would definitely come if she were to return to the absolute beginning divine world. It would be better if she did not turn up, as that meant she had definitely stayed behind and Jian Wushuang would not need to go up against the experts from the ancient past. Right then, a unique wave appeared from the black mist at heaven's horizon. Countless numbers of waves spread in all directions like ripples on the surface of a lake. The entire dark space was filled by the unique wave. Is it starting? Jian Wushuang and Emperor Bai's irises constricted in shock. Heaven's horizon on its own. This meant that the experts from the absolute beginning divine world on the other side started opening the passageway. The 138 experts from the ancient past also noticed this. They were all elated when they saw the wave gradually getting larger. It is starting. The overlords are opening the passageway. Finally! Haha! Am I really going to return to the absolute beginning divine world after being in a slumber for so long? Elation, excitement, anticipation. These emotions were written clearly on the faces of the experts from the ancient past. These experts had been trapped in this heaven and earth for far too long. Ever since this heaven and earth had been sealed off using the Great Formation in the ancient past, they had been completely isolated from their hometown. Their family, friends, and clans were all back in the absolute beginning divine world. Who would not miss their hometown? It was a pity they had not been able to do anything to return for such a long period of time. Today they had finally got their change to leave. How could they not be elated and excited? At the same time that the change occurred to heaven's horizon, two figures appeared in this space. Jian Wushuang immediately fixed his gaze on one of the figures. "They are finally here," Emperor Bai said as he too looked at the two figures. One of them was a young lady wearing white clothes and a veil. Even though the young lady was wearing a veil and no one could see what she looked like, many of the experts were attracted to her aura. This young lady in white clothes was, without a doubt, Lung Ruxue. The man who came with Lung Ruxue was over 3 meters tall and was built like a mountain. This buff man was Bing Shan. Lord Bing Shan, Hall Master Lung. The experts from the ancient past controlled their emotions and greeted the two respectfully when they saw who they were. Bing Shan was a very powerful man, inferior to only the Master of Holy Land. Lung Ruxue was the lineal disciple of Master of Holy Land. Both had incredible backgrounds. The experts from the ancient past should treat them with respect. Master has already started. If everything goes well, the passageway will be opened in half an hour. However, my master has also told me that they can only keep the passageway open for 10 breaths. There is nothing he can do if we do not leave by then, Lung Ruxue said. 10 breaths? If no one were to stop us, we could pass through the passageway almost instantly. However, if someone were to try and stop us, the situation would be different. Bing Shan said coldly. He looked at the experts from Sanctuary Alliance as he said so. At the same time, Jian Wushuang was also looking at them. To be more precise, he was looking at Leng Ruxue. Things will not be as smooth sailing as they could be. Leng Ruxue smiled lightly. She met Jian Wushuang's eyes. She knew what he was about to do. Jian Wushuang had come for her. How could he allow her to step foot into that passageway? Jian Wushuang moved. He started walking from the space where the great emperors from the Sanctuary Alliance were. Are you going to do it now? Emperor Bai knitted his eyebrows and said. The best time to stop Leng Ruxue was when the experts from the ancient past were rushing towards the passageway when it opened. At that point in time, all of the experts from the ancient past would be fixated on returning to the absolute beginning divine world. At that point in time, Jian Wushuang only had to stop one person instead of fighting them all, as the experts would be selfish and would want to go back to absolute beginning divine world immediately. It would be less likely they would be worrying about others if the passageway was right in front of their eyes. After all, the passageway could not last long. Hence, the probability of success was much higher. However, there were also other risks if they were to stop her after the passageway opened. Leng Ruxue stood very close to heaven's horizon. This was so that she could enter the passageway immediately when it finally opened. This instant would pass very quickly. Even though Leng Ruxue had become the leader of the Holocaust sect, she had never done anything at all, even during the battle back in the Three Emperors world. No one knew how powerful she really was or what kinds of techniques she had up her sleeves. She seemed much more terrifying as no one knew anything about her. If Leng Ruxue really had incredible techniques, she could appear within the passageway without giving Jian Wushuang a chance to react at all. Jian Wushuang would not risk that, so he decided to stop her immediately. He would suppress Leng Ruxue in front of all of the experts from the ancient past. This was the safest method. However, there were great difficulties that he would face by using this method. Jian Wushuang took 2 steps and appeared in front of Leng Ruxue. He stared at Leng Ruxue coldly, not speaking a word. The experts from the ancient past looked at Jian Wushuang in surprise. Jian Wushuang, it has really been a long time since we last met. Are you still not going to give up? Leng Ruxue fixed her gaze on Jian Wushuang as she teased him slowly. 10,000 years ago, I could not have stopped you from leaving the green fire world. However, I will not allow the same thing to happen twice. I will stop you from leaving this heaven and earth at all costs, Jian Wushuang said in a low voice. At all costs? Even if it costs your life? Leng Ruxue teased again. Even if it costs my life, Jian Wushuang said firmly. Haha, you really are infatuated with her. I do not understand which part of her has attracted you so much that you will do anything for her. Leng Ruxue smiled. Heartless people like you will not understand these emotions, Jian Wushuang said. Is that the case? Well, I am excited to see how you will stop me from leaving. Leng Ruxue smiled. She turned to the well-built man beside her and said, Lord Bing Shan, sorry to trouble you, but I need your help. Okay. Bing Shan nodded his head. After he'd awakened, he had received a direct order from that man from the absolute beginning divine world, which was to escort Leng Ruxue back to the absolute beginning divine world safely. Bing Shan would give his all because of the person who had given the order. You are the Sword Emperor? Bing Shan took a step as his giant body blocked Leng Ruxue out of sight. I know that you and Palace Master Leng were friends in the past. However, I suggest that you forget the idea of saving her, or simply forget her altogether. Then you will not have to die and can continue to be one of the most powerful men in this heaven and earth and live your life as you wish. If you persist in trying to stop her from leaving, trust me, my lord can kill you even though there are restrictions on heaven and earth. Is that the case? Sadly, I am a stubborn person. If I make up my mind to do something, I will definitely get it done no matter who gets in my way. Even if your lord were to come into this heaven and earth and stand in front of me, I would not give up. Jian Wushuang smiled mockingly. You really are a stubborn man. If you wish to die so badly, then I will send you on your way. Bing Shan's face turned cold as he spoke. He then whipped out a green battle axe and held it in his hand. He did not radiate any blade essence. Bing Shan simply stood there, but there were waves of invisible aura spreading in all directions as the surrounding area turned frosty. The freezing space and the freezing air turned into blades as it started to cut experts. Lord Bing Shan is about to attack. This Jian Wushuang really has courage. He dares to stand up against Lord Bing Shan. Lord Bing Shan is one step away from being a master of Holy Land. Even though he is under the restrictions of heaven and earth, his fighting power is still much stronger compared to experts like Old Monster Jiao. The Sword Emperor is overestimating himself. Does he think that after killing some divine demons and Old Monster Jiao together with Emperor he is now invincible in this heaven and earth? He has yet to meet experts like Lord Bing Shan. Now that Lord Bing Shan is angry, no one will be able to save him. The experts from the ancient past mocked. To them, Bing Shan was unbeatable. Within the eternal chaotic world, only Emperor 13, who had awakened not too long ago, could match him. They thought that both Jian Wushuang and Emperor Bai were no match for Bing Shan. Jian Wushuang became serious when he saw the ice blades flying towards him. This man is really strong. He held Blood Mountain sword in his hand as he prepared himself. Bing Shan stared at Jian Wushuang with his emotionless eyes. Suddenly, a flash of fierce radiance burst forth from his eyes. Whoosh! Bing Shan moved. His body was 3 meters tall and was extremely well built. Even so, he was incredibly fast. As he moved, terrifying tsunamis of blade essence crashed forth. Crash, him not radiating his blade essence was a choice. When he did, it shocked the world. This sword essence. It is really powerful. Jian Wushuang was shocked. The moment Bing Shan attacked, Jian Wushuang knew immediately that Bing Shan's understanding of the blade doctrine was far deeper than his understanding of the sword doctrine. This was to be expected. After all, Bing Shan was an expert one step away from master of Holy Land. He must have entered the blade doctrine realm. Even under the restrictions of heaven and earth, the blade essence he could use was definitely much more than Jian Wushuang, who was only at initial success in the sword doctrine realm, could. Bing Shan swung his blade. His blade swung in a straight line. A shiny blade light lit up. The moment the blade light appeared, whatever space-time there was in this heaven and earth was frozen. The might of heaven and earth then started fusing with the blade light. The blade light then became even brighter and longer. It seemed endless. In one moment, there was only one blade light in front of Jian Wushuang. In the next moment, the entire space in front of Jian Wushuang became saturated with blade lights. Jian Wushuang stood and looked at the overwhelming blade lights sweeping towards him. It was as though he was drowning in an ocean of blade lights. It was as thought he had to force himself to keep still, or else the blade lights would tear him apart. This blade principle is really overpowering, Jian Wushuang commented. He was not afraid to meet this challenge. No matter how incredible Bing Shan's blade skills were, they would not be too powerful in this heaven and earth. Here, only the inverse cultivators were unbeatable as they were the only ones not affected by the restrictions of heaven and earth. Jian Wushuang drew his sword. The moment he raised his sword, an incredible sword essence swept forth. Hum. As he slashed the space with his right hand, an eerie curve was seen as sword lights appeared. The sword lights were like spiderwebs as they infested the space around Jian Wushuang. Instantly, a giant web made out of sword lights was formed. The sword web seemed endless, and it was as though it could cocoon and destroy everything. The ocean of blade lights collided into the ocean of blade lights head-on. Puffed. There were no deafening explosions or collisions. All that could be heard were divine powers neutralizing each other. Even though the ocean of blade lights looked extremely bright and shiny, it could not tear the web of sword lights apart. Within moments, all of the blade lights disappeared. Whoosh! The figure that appeared out of the ocean of blade lights belonged to Jian Wushuang. No matter how powerful your blade skills are or how deep your understanding of the blade doctrine is, your power is limited to peak chaotic realm. Even though my sword skills are far weaker yours, the power I have is that of the divine demon realm. I can overpower you. I want to see how you are going to go against me. Jian Wushuang said coldly. When his figure appeared, a terrifying wave of divine power crashed forth. The divine power was like a vast ocean. Under his guidance, sword essence ran rampant within the space. Winds were blowing at such great speeds that they could tear any great emperor apart easily. This wind then blew towards Bing Shan, trying to suppress him. Jian Wushuang swung his sword. The sword went for its target immediately. A storm had surrounded Bing Shan completely. Sword Principal Xian Luo. Blast Rainstorm. Bing Shan stood tall at the center of the storm. The battle axe he was holding radiated gloom. He had an indifferent expression. An unprecedentedly violent and ruthless aura radiated from Bing Shan. It was as though Bing Shan was a demon from hell, not a human cultivator. It was as though he lost his sense of reasoning. Chop! 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 My battle blade does not back off from anyone. My battle bald is unstoppable. My battle blade will destroy all that stands in my way. Even though Bing Shan was in the middle of a storm, he ignored all defense as he continued his attack with his battle blade. Waves of blade lights were emitted from his hands. Every single blade light looked as though it was headed for infinity and beyond. It seemed powerful enough to slice through everything. He went purely on the offense. Crash! The seemingly endless storm was torn apart mercilessly by the blade light as the storm dissipated. The blade light that was headed for infinity and beyond continued for Jian Wushuang fiercely. Jian Wushuang's face turned pale. This man's blade skills. Jian Wushuang had known that Bing Shan's blade skills were far more powerful than his sword skills from his initial attack. Jian Wushuang's understanding of the sword doctrine was nothing compared to Bing Shan's understanding of the blade doctrine. However, he was not afraid as Bing Shan was under the restrictions of heaven and earth, which limited him to the power of his blade skills. However, Jian Wushuang had underestimated Bing Shan. Back in the absolute beginning divine world, Bing Shan had been one step away from being a master of Holy Land. His understanding of the blade doctrine was already at the peak. He had already formed his own unique blade doctrine. His blade doctrine was to destroy everything that stood in his way, no matter how powerful it was. He would never back down. His sword doctrine was a purely offensive one. His blade would only attack, never defend. In other words, his defense was to destroy everything in front of him with brute force. The best defense is offense. This guy, his blade doctrine is extremely offensive, which has made his attacks unbelievably powerful, Jian Wushuang exclaimed. This was still the case even when Bing Shan could not use the full power of his blade doctrine as he was under the restrictions of heaven and earth. How powerful was he when he'd used such extreme blade skills back in his prime? Jian Wushuang could not picture it. Die! 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 Bing Shan yelled madly. It was as though Bing Shan had been taken over by a demon. His blade skills were headed for infinity and beyond. Waves of terrifying blade skills, which were simple yet overpowering, headed for Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang was stressed. Even though his sword skills were no match for Bing Shan's blade skills, Jian Wushuang thought he could stop the blades with the mixed elements spirit style from sword principal Xian Luo as his divine power was far stronger than that of Bing Shan. He soon realized that Bing Shan's blade skills were not only overpowering but also endless. The blade lights hit continuously without giving him a chance to take a break. When Jian Wushuang chose to use mixed element spirit to fend off the attacks, he knew he would be on the passive end as there was no way he could counterattack. Bing Shan would not give him a chance to do so. This man's blade skill is too terrifying. Jian Wushuang was completely shocked. The experts from the ancient past took a sharp breath when they saw the scene. Too powerful. Lord Bing Shan's blade skills are far too powerful. What kind of person is Lord Bing Shan? Even under the restrictions of heaven and earth, there is no way we can compare ourselves to him. His blade skills are really extreme. It goes purely for power and aims for infinity. Even though it is extreme, it is incredibly powerful. Unless you are in a higher realm than Lord Bing Shan, once you are suppressed, you will be suppressed until you are defeated. It seemed straightforward and dumb. However, once you reach Lord Bing Shan's level, you need not fear anyone anymore. The experts from the ancient past were all well educated. They knew clearly how overbearing Bing Shan's blade skills were. This type of blade skill or blade doctrine was so rare that it could be classified in a category of its own. However, these types of alternative blade skills were still fatal and powerful in a battle. Just like in the battle against Jian Wushuang. Even though Jian Wushuang had incredible power and a decent understanding of the sword doctrine, once he decided to withstand Bing Shan's blade skills, he had to do it all the way till the end. In the battlefield before the eyes of many, Jian Wushuang was being pushed back. Despite that, Jian Wushuang seemed relatively calm. I trained in the Sword Doctrine Trial Tower for 1,000 years and reached initial success with my sword principle. But Bing Shan's saber principle at his pinnacle period is unfathomable. Even with the restrictions placed on the earth, he is still so much stronger than I had expected. His saber principle should be a great achievement, maybe near complete satisfaction by now, Jian Wushuang thought. Saber principle, great achievement, was the level Bing Shan could demonstrate. It may be slightly higher than Jian Wushuang, but Jian Wushuang knew deep inside that the small differences added up to a too big difference. His arrogant saber skills have completely suppressed me. I can only block him, but that way I cannot find a way to fight back. If that's the case, Jian Wushuang's gaze turned cold. If resisting is not the way, I guess I need to fight fire with fire. Hua! Jian Wushuang pulled out his sword at lightning speed as the Blood Mountain sword cut a certain curvature across the void, like a ghost moving in the air. The sword was flexible and went straight for Bing Shan's throat. Jian Wushuang did not bother blocking Bing Shan's arrogant saber and let it strike at him. Dang! The saber struck Jian Wushuang's head and a metallic sound could be heard. Jian Wushuang was wearing the 5-gem armor, greatly weakening the saber's power. Jian Wushuang let out a pained sound but recovered instantly. His sword light went straight for Bing Shan's throat. But before it pierced his throat, Jian Wushuang felt a large force of resistance surrounding Bing Shan's body. It was invisible, but Jian Wushuang felt it. It was formed entirely from his saber essence. It formed an armor of saber essence. His sword only knows how to attack, but that's not his full potential. He has a powerful protection secret skill with him, and that is how he defends. Jian Wushuang said. If Bing Shan only had scary attack abilities, Jian Wushuang would not be too worried. But he has an armor formed from saber essence as his self-defense mechanism. That would prove tough to settle. Die! Bing Shan's eyes were bloodshot and cut down towards Jian Wushuang frenzied. Jian Wushuang's face darkened and he retreated. As he retreated, Xiao. Xiao! 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 9 streaks of golden light emerged. Those were Jian Wushuang's 9 Hongjun golden swords. Not only were they powerful, but they were fast as well and appeared in front of Bing Shan within an instant. And they came for Bing Shan in all directions. Hongjun golden swords? Bing Shan seemed to be in a frenzy, but he had absolute clarity, recognizing the swords immediately. Haha, if you could form the first formation with those swords, you could make a dent. But you can't even do that and you want to block me. Bing Shan laughed disdainfully. His saber did not stop. Endless saber light was still heading towards Jian Wushuang and he did not block the 9 Hongjun golden swords. His saber skills only know how to attack. Dang! 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 The 9 Hongjun golden swords struck his saber essence armor. Without piercing him, the swords were all deflected by his armor. What a scary self-defense secret skill, my Hongjun golden swords did nothing to it. Jian Wushuang was astonished. Boy, I told you, don't get cocky. You don't even know how big the world is. And you dare prevent Lord Lung from heading towards the absolute beginning divine world. A joke, Bing Shan said. Is it? Jian Wushuang's eyes turned cold and rushed out like a ghost. Cut! Bing Shan returned to his saber and cut down. The dark void was instantly split into half. Shimmering saber light appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang's pupils shrank at the sight of the saber light, but he had no intention to defend. If blocking meant being suppressed, he would rather take the blow. Looking for death? Bing Shan was enraged. Looking for death? Haha! You are the true myopic one. Your self-defense mechanisms are strong, but mine is 1,000-fold better. Jian Wushuang bellowed and allowed the saber to cut down at him. Jian Wushuang shuddered for a moment. Soon his sword pierced out. An ordinary, powerless blade, but as it pierced the void, an enormous reincarnation power started exuding outwards. Sword principle. Samsara. Bing Shan did not block it either. He had absolute confidence in his saber essence armor. He believed Jian Wushuang could not hurt him in any way. As the cold blade touched his saber essence armor, the reincarnation power was exuded. It was a strange power. The saber essence where the sword tip touched the armor started transforming. The strong sword essence from before had reverted to the saber principle origin. Yes, the origin. Saber essence had been formed with saber principle origin. Under the influence of the reincarnation power, that small area of saber essence reverted back to the origin. The armor disintegrated. What? Bing Shan could feel something was not right, but it was too late. Chi! The cold blade struck Bing Shan's body without interference. A hole was made in his body. It only hurt his skin and bones, nothing vital. But without a doubt, Jian Wushuang had injured Bing Shan. In the void, both Jian Wushuang and Bing Shan stopped whatever they were doing. Jian Wushuang stood there coldly. Bing Shan stood there as well. By then his murderous intent and frenzy had dissipated. He stood there frowning as he watched blood oozing out from his body. The surrounding ancient era experts were shocked. Lord Bing Shan is injured? How? It's Lord Bing Shan. One step away from being master of Holy Land, Lord Bing Shan was injured by a chaotic realm rascal? Unbelievable. The ancient era experts were all in awe. If they had not witnessed it for themselves, they would not have believed it. As ancient era experts, they knew how strong Bing Shan was. Bing Shan's saber skills were powerful, and he not only knew how to attack, his self-defense mechanism was even more terrifying. That combination of saber skills and saber essence armor made him famous in the absolute beginning divine world. They had never expected him to get injured during the fight against Jian Wushuang. The armor did not block Jian Wushuang's sword. That blade. Bing Shan stared at Jian Wushuang as he felt his sword essence armor changing. You could use reincarnation rules of order to revert my sword essence back into the origin. It's not much, but you managed to injure me. Decent swordsmanship, even better reincarnation rules of order. Bing Shan knew that even though his swordsmanship was good, how he utilized reincarnation rules of order was even better. Jian Wushuang's realization of reincarnation rules of order was not high. Most likely he was new to it, but already he was very familiar with it. To apply reincarnation rules of order to swordsmanship and morph objects back to their original state was impossible even for higher experts from back in the absolute beginning divine world. Thank you. Jian Wushuang's eyes were cold, and he was not delighted at all. He knew it was all thanks to One-Star Man's reincarnation pearl. The small-scale reincarnation within the pearl had helped Jian Wushuang tremendously. No, just in terms of realization, Jian Wushuang's usage of reincarnation rules of order had significantly improved over the past 3,000 years. Samsara was his strongest self-created skill. It is not the most powerful, but the terrifying part came with the reincarnation at the tip of his blade. He could make fauna reincarnate along with natural materials. He could revert Bing Shan's sword essence, but only by a bit. But that was enough to give Jian Wushuang a shot. Guess I underestimated you. I thought I could defeat you or at least suppress you under these restrictions. I never expected your reincarnation rules of order to make such a huge improvement across these 1,000 years. Even I can no longer defeat you. I may even lose to you, Bing Shan said. It was true. He had a perfect combination of attack and defense. His saber skills would destroy everything in his way. His saber essence armor would block everything else. It was a scary combination. But now Jian Wushuang's samsara made his armor useless, losing his self-defense mechanism. Even though Jian Wushuang couldn't go against his saber skills, he had unbelievable self-defense mechanisms. Even if he were to absorb the full blow from Bing Shan, it would be Bing Shan who got injured first. I could defeat you, but I could never kill you, Jian Wushuang said. He knew that well. Bing Shan's fighting power was way stronger than that of any other divine demon he had even met, including Old Monster Jiao. Only Emperor 13 could be stronger than him. It was impossible for Jian Wushuang to kill him. Even though you are stronger than I imagined, I will keep to my word. Bing Shan stared at Jian Wushuang. As strong as you are only limited to this land, a chaotic realm like you could never go against those lords at the absolute beginning divine world. How will I know if I don't try? Jian Wushuang said. Bing Shan frowned but did not say more. He looked at the ancient era experts and said, guys, it should be clear why they would want to open the link passage for us. After hearing that, many ancient era experts looked confused. They had been trapped for too long a time, but the absolute beginning divine world had never really cared about them. Most of the ancient era experts were at most chaotic divine demons. which meant they were nothing but ants to the masters of Holy Land. The only person one could consider not an ant would be Bing Shan. Because of that, the experts at Absolute Beginning Divine World never bothered about them. When they opened the link passage in the first era, they did not wake the experts thereup. It had always been the case, and the chaotic divine demons knew. But now, the Absolute Beginning Divine World had opened the link passage for them to escape. But where had this opportunity come from? The ancient era experts looked at the masked white-clothed woman at the center of the void. Above the void, no one could decipher the white-clothed woman Lang Rushua's reaction due to her veil, but her brows showed nothing but mockery. The ancient era experts started talking amongst each other. They knew they owed it to Lang Rushue. Lang Rushue with her heavenly body was the lineal disciple if that master of Holy Land back at the Absolute Beginning Divine World, and that master treated her with incomparable importance. The reason why the master of Holy Land would sacrifice so much to open the link passage was only to bring Lang Rushue back. The ancient era experts simply hitchhiked. Since the link passage was already open, they felt they might as well bring everyone back. Seems like you all are aware. Bing Shan looked around and smiled. Lord Lung is the reason why the link passage will open. If Lord Lung's stuck here, do you really think you will be able to return to the Absolute Beginning Divine World? Even if you do, what do you think the Master will do to you? Bing Shan's words shocked many. It was what they had been worrying about. The main purpose was to bring Lang Rushue over to the Absolute Beginning Divine World. If they left her and departed, they would definitely suffer the wrath of the Master. The ancient era experts made their decision. Figures gradually approached from the edges of the void. In an instant, they had surrounded Jian Wushuang at the center. The ancient era experts had their eyes all fixed on Jian Wushuang. Sword Emperor, we should not go over your personal grievances with Lord Lung, but since it is only due to her that we can leave. You know what I mean, a magnificent voice came from Chen Qi. Chen Qi had followed Old Monster Jiao to attack Thunderbolt Island but had been obliterated by Jian Wushuang and Emperor Bai. Jian Wushuang's powers struck fear into Chen Qi as well. But despite that, he was in no position to back down. Previously, it had been to return Old Monster Jiao a favor, but now it was for the smooth departure from the land. The other ancient era experts felt similarly. Sword Emperor, we are not willing to be your enemies, but we have no choice. After so many years of slumber, if I don't take this chance to escape, I will die in my sleep. Keeping Lord Lung here means keeping all of us here. Sword Emperor, we hope you can make the right decision. Sword Emperor, please don't push us down that road. Threatening words came from their mouths one by one. The ancient era experts were all determined. As they had said, keeping Lord Lung would be to keep all of them there. They would never agree to that. Show. A figure appeared beside Jian Wushuang. It was Emperor Bai. Jian Wushuang, what should we do? Emperor Bai frowned as he glanced at all the ancient era experts. With Jian Wushuang and Bing Shan, he did not interfere. But he would certainly not back down, knowing that everyone was targeting Jian Wushuang. They are right, blocking Lang Rushue would be to block all of them, pushing them to a dead end. But letting Lang Rushue would be pushing me to a dead end as well. Jian Wushuang was determined. He needed no second thoughts. He made his decision before arriving at heaven's horizon. And once a decision was made, Jian Wushuang would not waver. I said, I need to stay here regardless of the price. No one can stop me. That cold voice resonated across the land. Lang Rushue's mockery grew more intense as she revealed a playful smile under her veil. The ancient era expert's eyes turned bloodshot. Don't blame us, Sword Emperor. Chen Qi's voice was eerie cold. Let's take him down. Die. The ancient era experts did not hesitate. Without Bing Shan, there were still 138 ancient era experts. At that moment, all 138 were charging towards Jian Wushuang from all directions. HNGH. Emperor Bai snorted as the shimmering enormous golden emperor appeared behind him. At that moment, a golden armored figure appeared around him. He had used both the 9-star armor and Punisher God. Jian Wushuang gazed upon the incoming ancient era experts. Although most of them were chaotic divine demons hitting 3rd stage great emperor fighting powers at most, there were 10-odd experts beyond chaotic divine demon like Qin Qi and Old Monster Jiao. Each of them was at half-step divine demon levels. Those in my way, prepare to meet your fate. Jian Wushuang was furious as he pulled out his Blood Mountain sword beaming with crimson light. A terrifying aura oppressed the entire area. War had broken out. Crap, the great emperors of the eternal chaotic world all witnessed it from a void not too far away. When they saw the ancient era experts charge towards Jian Wushuang and Emperor Bai, their faces changed dramatically. But no matter how anxious they were, there was nothing much they could do. Jian Wushuang and Emperor Bai had instructed them not to make any rash decisions. After all, they were only first stage and second stage great emperors. Sending them to ancient era experts would be asking them to die. In a dark void some distance away from the battlefield. Ha! The show has begun! A cheerful laugh resonated as more than a dozen figures stood around. They all had impressive auras and the one-star man was their leader. They had been at the void for some time already but had not yet decided to reveal themselves. They were shocked when they witnessed the fight between Jian Wushuang and Bing Shan. Now, they saw the war happening in front of their eyes as well. 100-odd experts, the weakest one a chaotic divine demon. They really embarrassed themselves using so many people against two chaotic realms. They have no choice. They can only demonstrate chaotic realm level powers anyway under the restrictions. If they go one-on-one, they will certainly die. One-star man. The war has begun. Should we just watch? The dozen people looked towards one-star man. No rush. The one-star man waved his hand and said, "It's not time yet. The boy's going against 100-odd chaotic divine demon experts." "You're not worried?" a gray-clothed old lady asked. "Relax, the boy is tougher than he looks and he learned inverse cultivation. It won't be that easy to kill him." The one-star man smiled. He was confident in Jian Wushuang. The gray-clothed old lady raised an eyebrow. "Seems like you know quite a bit about this boy, but what is the plan between you and that guy?" "Seems like the plan relies mostly upon the boy." The others all looked towards one-star man. They had known for the longest time that the one-star man had a plan, but only a few people really knew what it was about. Although they were 7-star Black Sect experts, they didn't have enough clearance. They simply followed orders. "No rush, soon you will know," one-star man replied. The gray-clothed old lady and the others looked at each other but did not question further. The black void at heaven's horizon had already been immersed in the heat of war. Bing Shan did not attack again and retreated back to Lang Rushua's side. "Lord Bing Shan, how did it feel?" Lang Rushua looked at Bing Shan. "A bit aggrieving." Bing Shan looked at the place where Jian Wushuang had stabbed him. The wounds had recovered, but he could still feel the sting. Before going against Jian Wushuang, he had never expected Jian Wushuang to harm him. "My Saber Essence armor was mainly divine power, supplemented with Saber Essence. But the restrictions reduced my divine power to chaotic realm levels. If I had even half-step divine demon divine powers, the armor would have never been penetrated by the Sword Emperor," Bing Shan said. Jian Wushuang's samsara was unique with its reincarnation techniques. But in the eyes of Bing Shan, it was no more than a parlor trick. Unfortunately, under the restrictions, parlor tricks were enough to injure him. That was why Bing Shan felt aggrieved. "I underestimated him, but it's okay, it'll all end the same. The divine demons would block him all the way, maybe even kill him. With them blocking, Sword Emperor would have no way to reach to you," Bing Shan said. "May not be that way," Lang Rushua shook her head. "May not." Bing Shan looked over astonished. "You think Sword Emperor could survive the divine demon's attack?" "More than just survive. He's an inverse cultivation after all." Lang Rushua laughed. "Watch." Bing Shan was astonished but did not ask anything further and spectated the fight. There were 138 ancient era experts making their moves on Jian Wushuang at the same time from all sides. And they all demonstrated their abilities. They did everything they could. Some sealed space-time to restrict his movements. Some formed great divine powers to press against Jian Wushuang. Some used long-range divine weapons like the Hongjun golden swords against Jian Wushuang, and some directly charged against him. Some used soul attacks. The widespread attack went for Jian Wushuang at immense speeds. Jian Wushuang's eyes were gleaming. The Blood Mountain sword in his hand let out a loud scream as the sword essence pierced him. Scram! A loud sound followed by endless divine power swept from the Blood Mountain sword. The sweep was like a multicolored sword river in the sky. And the sword river was fierce and roared upon impact. Several attacks directly bounced out, space-time seals were destroyed, and billowing divine powers retreated in an instant. Endless divine power came bursting from Jian Wushuang's body and formed a huge region around him. He had filled the region with chaotic divine demon-level divine power. With that around, the divine demons could not use any space-time or divine power suppression methods against him. Walala, a sword appeared from the heavens. It was a crimson sword. The person wielding it was a man beyond chaotic divine demon. The crimson light blocked the sun and went straight for Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang lifted his head but did not pull out his sword. Instead, a huge sword essence concentrated in midair to form a sword shadow and slice it. Dang! A metallic collision could be heard and the crimson sword bounced out. Hong! A ghost, billowed by nether light, appeared in front of Jian Wushuang, holding a battle sword. Shua! 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 3 times the man swayed his battle sword. The first sword went for his throat. The second went for his heart. The third went straight for his skull. What a strange saber skill! Jian Wushuang's face darkened, but he did not slow down one bit. Power of space-time rolled out as Jian Wushuang moved like a phantom, easily avoiding all 3 saber lights. He had just found his composure. Wang! A strong soul attack was charging towards him. It had been performed by a chaotic divine demon not too far away. The chaotic divine demon was best at soul attacks, but he could only perform 3rd stage Great Emperor levels under the restrictions on the earth. But Jian Wushuang had his 5-gem armor, soul-swallowing pearl, and his own strong soul power. The soul attack dissipated without even making Jian Wushuang frown. As Jian Wushuang was being soul attacked, a black shadow appeared before him. The black shadow held a dark, eerie dagger oozing with black liquid. It was poison. Die! A devious smile could be seen from the face of that shadow as the dagger went straight for Jian Wushuang's skull. At such a close distance, at such high speeds, Jian Wushuang could not have possibly avoided it. But at that moment, boom, his mind went blank. He was being soul attacked by Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang's soul attack was being complemented by his own soul power, the golden light scripture from the 3 divine lights, and the soul-swallowing pearl. Only half-step divine demons could block it. Chaotic divine demons had no way to resist. The black shadow's eyes turned hollow and paused right there. The dagger did not move an inch either. Show! A golden light went bursting by. It was the Hong Jun golden sword, slicing the black shadow down. That was the end of the black shadow. Under the attack of so many ancient-era experts, Jian Wushuang did not die immediately but had taken 1 down instead. Now Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship was at full speed. Hua! 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 The swordsmanship seemed casual but was, in fact, unfathomable, and sliced ancient-era experts, complemented by his great divine power and perception abilities. There were too many ancient-era experts for Jian Wushuang to block everything completely, so he did not bother to resist. As he was being attacked, he kept striking back. His soul attack was also on full blast. Careful! Watch out for his soul attack. His swordsmanship as well. Bullshit. With his soul attack, he won't be able to block it even if we chaotic divine demons took precautions. Then let's not give him the chance to attack one-on-one. In a fit of anger, the ancient-era experts started teaming up. But soon they realized something. Jian Wushuang's self-defense mechanism was too strong. Indeed, Jian Wushuang was not able to block all of their coordinated attacks. That meant that Jian Wushuang was constantly being struck in vital places like his head. Even with his protective gear, the sheer power alone should have greatly injured Jian Wushuang. If it had been them, their holy bodies would have long ago collapsed, but Jian Wushuang? Jian Wushuang had been struck more than 100 times since the battle had begun, but he showed no signs of collapsing. In fact, his aura has not been weakened at all. 100-odd attacks, but he's still fine? Don't talk about collapsing, how is he still uninjured? Impossible. The ancient-era experts were all in awe. If they had inverse cultivation's 7th step, the perfect chaotic holy body, they would not have found it impossible. Jian Wushuang, with his perfect chaotic holy body, as long as he had enough divine power, would recover immediately no matter how bad the damage. Under attacks from at least a 3rd stage Great Emperor, it was impossible for one not to get injured. Jian Wushuang seemed uninjured, but it was because he had recovered immediately with divine power. That kept his fighting power and aura at the pinnacle. Die! Jian Wushuang moved like a phantom as his blood mountain sword went for an ancient-era expert's throat like a snake out of its hole. Crap! The Ancient Era expert was taken aback. By the time he could react, a great soul attack had struck him. Chi! The sword light had pierced his throat. Crap! The surrounding Ancient Era experts were all looking awful. That was the 8th expert Jian Wushuang had taken down. The battle had not been going on for long, but 8 Ancient Era experts had fallen. How terrifying was that? How could that be possible? Bing Shan frowned. If I received that much damage, I would have been severely injured by now. Not just him, Emperor Bai as well, Long Rushue smiled. Bing Shan noticed the battlefield with Emperor Bai as well. Amongst the 138 Ancient Era experts, a significant number of them were going against Emperor Bai as well. Emperor Bai was in a similar situation to Jian Wushuang, but his aura had not decreased under the attacks. Inverse cultivation is indeed impressive, Bing Shan murmured. I said they could never kill Jian Wushuang. Holding him back is a different thing, Long Rushue said. It's too early for that, most of them have not given their all yet, Bing Shan said. Long Rushue raised her eyebrow. Then, Wang. The heavens horizon shook as the ripples along it became more concentrated. There was greater movement. Invincible. It's happening. Bing Shan's pupils shrank as he sensed the change at heaven's horizon. He roared. The link passage is about to open. Don't waste any more time. The surrounding Ancient Era experts could sense the change at heaven's horizon as well. After listening to Bing Shan's roar, the Ancient Era experts' gazes became more fierce. Use all your trump cards to take him down. Give it your all. Ancient Era experts had no intention to hold back anymore. Those absolute beginning divine world Ancient Era experts had all been very strong during their pinnacle and had many tricks behind their sleeve. They may not have gone that far if they were fighting normally under the restrictions. But things were different now that they had decided to give it their all. The remaining Ancient Era experts had started giving it their all. Strong auras started emerging, many Ancient Era experts had started using secret skills. Some even spewed blood essence to boost their powers. Trump cards were being used one by one. Soon, the Ancient Era experts made their move. One by one, they displayed their trump cards. Solidifying Blood Divine Finger. Godslayer Spear. Nanine Divine Light. Sanguis Demon Interfectum. Terrifying attacks were coming in from all directions. They were all so much stronger than the ones Jian Wushuang had endured. This was the Ancient Era experts trying their very best. Every attack was outrageously strong. Jian Wushuang stood at the center of the void as he felt the waves of attack heading towards him. He could only block a few, but the rest swallowed him like a tsunami. Hong Long Long, a terrifying roar resonated across the earth along with a strong divine power storm. The vast void along the heavens horizon was completely surrounded by the divine power storm. Far from the battlefield, the eternal chaotic world great emperors were all dumbfounded by the sight. That's too terrifying. Those Ancient Era experts could all demonstrate third-stage Great Emperor abilities if they all used their trump card. Sword Emperor, will he make it? The eternal chaotic world Great Emperors had full confidence in the Sword Emperor and Emperor Bai. Based on their understanding, they were invincible. But now they were not so sure. At that moment, they could still see a figure at the center of the battlefield. It was Jian Wushuang, and he was dissipating. He had collapsed. Jian Wushuang's holy body had completely collapsed. This eternal chaotic world great emperors were all stunned. The Ancient Era experts were all elated. Is he dead? The Ancient Era experts heaved a sigh of relief. Jian Wushuang was only a chaotic realm expert, but they had stressed out the Ancient Era experts pretty well. But now, after the Ancient Era experts had all teamed up and given it their best, Jian Wushuang had finally succumbed to the attacks. Looks like he's dead. Bing Shan held his hands together as he stared at the battlefield. Don't get too excited. Long Rushue smiled. Ha! Bing Shan was confused. Jian Wushuang's holy body had already collapsed. What else could happen? As the divine power storm dissipated, the earth slowly calmed down. Jian Wushuang was no longer in the spot where he had used to be. He must have collapsed under the attack of all the Ancient Era experts. And that was the case. Under the attack of so many experts, collapsing was the only way it would end. But did it mean that Jian Wushuang was dead? The next moment, large amounts of divine power was condensing at that void. After a moment, a perfectly intact figure reappeared. Jian Wushuang was still holding his sword, his aura unhindered. How is that possible? We destroyed his holy body. The Ancient Era experts were dumbfounded. They saw his body collapse, but at the very next moment his body reformed. And he was still uninjured. This ability. He has the body of undying. Qin Shi, who had fought against Jian Wushuang, once said, "I searched through Emperor Bai and Sword Emperor's information. Both of them are inverse cultivators and had their holy bodies collapse before. Now it is apparent. They are undying." Body of undying? The ancient era experts froze. Body of undying was a power only undying saints could attain in the absolute beginning divine world. It was a terrifying ability, the best life-saving means around. They had all witnessed undying saints collapsing then reforming. But those were undying saints. Jian Wushuang was only a chaotic realm. How could he have possessed undying saint abilities? How was that possible? Body of undying. Bing Shan froze as well. He knew how terrifying the body of undying was. He had it himself. Unfortunately, under the restrictions, he could not use it at all. But Jian Wushuang, a chaotic realm rascal, had the body of undying and was restricted by the formation that bound the earth at all. Now I know why you said those chaotic divine demons would not kill Sword Emperor. Bing Shan looked deep into Lang Rushua's eyes. The latter smiled. She had witnessed Jian Wushuang and Emperor by reforming before. She knew they had the body of undying. With superb skills and bodies of undying, Emperor Bai and Jian Wushuang were invincible in those lands. Not only was he so strong, but he had the body of undying as well. They had all done their best to destroy Jian Wushuang's holy body. For that, many of them had paid heavy prices to demonstrate those moves. They had barely managed to do it once, much less a second time. But Jian Wushuang's body of undying could reform a countless amount of times. They could never kill Jian Wushuang. Invincible. Invincible. The ancient era experts were howling. Indeed, Jian Wushuang was invincible in their eyes. There was nothing the ancient era experts could do to him. Suddenly, boom. The earth shook suddenly as a faint light emerged from the dark and foggy heavens horizon. The faint light grew brighter. Indistinctly, a familiar aura emerged from the other end of the light. The aura of the absolute beginning divine world. The ancient era experts all sensed it and immediately went fanatical over it. It has begun. The few masters have created a gap for the link passage. At this rate, it won't take long for the entire link passage to emerge. The ancient era experts were all extremely excited. Bing Shan's eyes turned cold and he howled. The link passage will open soon, but no one is to enter before Lord Lung. The only way to enter the link passage is to block the Sword Emperor with your life. After Lord Lung enters, do as you please. The ancient era experts went into a frenzy upon hearing it. Countless bloodshot eyes were staring at Jian Wushuang. Undoubtedly, Jian Wushuang was impossible to kill. But all they needed to do now was to block Jian Wushuang. They could definitely do that. Let's go. We need to trap him. Don't give him a chance to escape. We need to let Lord Lang go first. The ancient era experts said it again. But this time, they had no intention of killing Jian Wushuang. They simply needed to trap him. Ancient era experts had various killing tactics and even more ways to entrap people. The sheer number of ancient era experts flooded Jian Wushuang beyond comprehension. It would be unrealistic for Jian Wushuang to be able to break through. Lang Rushue and Bing Shan stood side by side as they watched the light grow brighter from within the gray mist. A link passage gradually appeared, but it was still narrow and unstable. As long as the link passage stabilized, they could step through directly. But at that moment, one star man and the others in the void made their move. Guys, it's our turn. One star man looked around with dazzling eyes. Haha, finally. It's been so long since I stretched my bones. Let's go. 10 odd streaks of flowing light flew in from the void and directly into the battlefield. Haha, 3 big holy lands, for big holy tribes, 8 big holy sex rascals, come meet the saint's soul. A burst of hearty laughter was made by a thin old man in a black robe. His eyes were eerily gray and a gray fire seemed to burn from within, making him look extremely devious. As the laughter echoed, a horrifying soul power billowed through the surrounding ancient era experts. Under that power, many weak, chaotic divine demons lost consciousness and fainted upon contact. Only stronger, chaotic divine demons and beyond could resist it. What a strong soul attack, stronger than Sword Emperors. The ancient era experts that had managed to stay awake were shocked. Jian Wushuang's soul attack was strong, but its power could only be felt when concentrated into one-to-one attacks against chaotic divine demons. If he were to spread that soul power around, it would do minimal damage to surrounding ancient era experts. But now, the skinny old man did as such and half of the chaotic divine demons fainted. How strong was that soul attack? It's Saint Soul. It's him. The old man's not dead. The ancient era experts were angered upon hearing that name. Saint Soul was one of the strongest experts in the 7-star Black Sect, Ancient Era. He had been named a saint for his undying saint abilities and received the title Soul for his mastery in soul power. Even back at the absolute beginning divine world, very few undying saints could have surpassed him in terms of soul power. Thankfully, due to the restrictions, his soul power could only be maintained at chaotic realm levels, unable to display its full power. Without the restrictions, he would have killed thousands of chaotic divine demons immediately. "Ancient little soul, you stole my thunder," said the gray-clothed old lady. "Ha! I could never, Elder Shihua." Saint Soul laughed respectfully. "Elder Shihua. It is Elder Shihua. Oh my God!" The divine demons from the ancient past were stunned. Saint Soul was only a top-tier undying saint, but Elder Shihua was a legend in the undying saint realm. She was extremely old and had been very famous within the absolute beginning divine world even before Saint Soul started cultivating. She was known as one of the most terrifying undying saints. No one knew how powerful she really was as she rarely engaged in combat. Even Saint Soul was weaker than Elder Shihua. Haha. I never thought that there would still be youngsters who remembered me after so many years. Elder Shihua smiled. Her eyes radiated coldness. Watch out! A loud yell was heard. Just when the experts from the ancient past were taking some precautions, a silver ray of light streaked across the battlefield. It was so fast that the 3 experts from the ancient past died without having any time to react. A hole appeared in their chests. Their divine bodies withered before they could cry out as it turned into dead bodies instantly. Hiss, the experts from the ancient past took a sharp and cold breath. They looked at the silver ray of light, which was now sitting on the shoulder of Elder Shihua, in surprise. It was a small, silver snake with light spots. It was this snake which had killed 3 experts from the ancient past instantly and sucked their bodies dry. It is Elder Shihua's snake, Flower God. It is extremely venomous. Legend has it that if you ever come into contact with its poison, you will become a dead, withered corpse immediately. Looks like the legends were true, one of the experts from the ancient past said in shock. There were other experts who came along with Saint Soul and Elder Shihua. They too attacked. They were recognized immediately when they used their incredible fighting power. Saint Ice Flame, Old Monster Mang, Emperor Man, these were famous people back in the absolute beginning divine world, and all of them stood in front of these experts from the ancient past. There were top-tier experts from the 7-star Black Sect. The weakest of them was in the undying saint realm. The only people from the 7-star Black Sect who had survived the great battle of the ancient past were in the undying saint realm. Anyone weaker than that got massacred. These experts had also gone into deep slumber within this heaven and earth and had just awakened today. Even though they had the advantage in terms of numbers, the experts from the ancient past were all extremely cautious and frightened when they were fighting against these 10 experts in the undying saint realm. There were mere divine demons. Even if some of them were in realms more powerful than that, they were still far away from the undying saint realm. In their primes, any one of these undying saints would have been able to massacre them easily. Even though they were under the restrictions of heaven and earth, the fighting power they had were still much greater than the divine demons from the ancient past. When these 10 undying saints entered the battlefield, the tide of the battle turned instantly. Little one, we can handle these people. Go and do what you need to do. Elder Shihua looked over at Jian Wushuang and said after she killed another divine demon. Thank you, fellow seniors. Jian Wushuang thanked them gratefully. No problem. Elder Shihua waved her hand and said. Jian Wushuang turned and left without hesitation. Previously, the experts from the ancient past had had him preoccupied and not given him any chance to leave. But now, Elder Shihua and the other experts came and stopped these experts from the ancient past. Jian Wushuang was now free to do as he wished. Whoosh! Jian Wushuang's figure blinked and he appeared in front of Lang Ruxue and Bing Shan instantly. Jian Wushuang scanned the heavens horizon behind him and realized the passageway had almost completely opened. However, it had yet to stabilize. There is still time, Jian Wushuang thought as he clenched his fists tightly. Bing Shan turned pale when he saw Jian Wushuang appear in front of him. He immediately stood in front of Lang Ruxue and said, Sword Emperor. If you want to stop Palace Masterling, you will have to pass through me first. A ray of killing intent flashed through Jian Wushuang's eyes. However, before he could attack, another voice was heard. Haha, Bing Shan, you have the audacity to interrupt the private matters of two youngsters. A hearty laugh boomed as a figure appeared beside Jian Wushuang. It was an elder who seemed peaceful. It was One-Star Man. Senior One-Star Man, Jian Wushuang said in greeting. He was not surprised when One-Star Man appeared. He knew that One-Star Man was the one who had called experts like Elder Shiwa over to help. One-Star Man, is it you? Bing Shan looked over at One-Star Man with a serious expression. There had been many powerful experts in the 7-star Black Sect back in its prime. The most famous of them all were the 7 stars, which represented 7 top-tier experts. The strongest among them was Emperor 13, who could have gone against even the Master of Holy Land. The other 6 might not be as powerful as Emperor 13, but they were all very close to the Master of Holy Land realm. Even though Bing Shan and these people were similar in the realms they were in, their fighting power was far inferior. Any one of the 7 stars could wreck him in a battle. Even though the One-Star Man was not part of the 7 stars, Bing Shan knew well that One-Star Man was very close to him in terms of fighting power. He was a candidate to be one of them. He was definitely a fierce enemy. Bing Shan, your opponent today is me. I will not let you hinder these 2 little ones, One-Star Man smiled and said with absolute confidence. Bing Shan's face turned dark. He knew how powerful One-Star Man was. If One-Star Man gave it his all to stop him, there was no way he could divert his attention and care about Lang Ruxue. The other experts from the ancient past were all busy dealing with people like Elder Shiwa. There was no way they could help out. This meant that Lang Ruxue had to face Jian Wushuang alone. However, Jian Wushuang was extremely powerful. Lang Ruxue interrupted Bing Shan's thoughts as she said, Lord Bing Shan, you can put all your attention on One-Star Man. There is no need to worry about me. What? Palace Master Lang, Bing Shan knitted his eyebrows and was about to continue when Lang Ruxue interrupted him again. Lord Bing Shan, you are underestimating me. Do not forget, I am my master's lineal disciple. Lang Ruxue waved at him and said. Lang Ruxue's words got Bing Shan thinking. He immediately recalled his lord from the absolute beginning divine world before nodding his head. Indeed, that lord's vision was incredible. Lang Ruxue had to be very different and unique if the Lord was willing to accept her as a lineal disciple and pay a hefty price to bring her back from the sealed-off heaven and earth back to the absolute beginning divine world. Even though Jian Wushuang was incredibly powerful, Lang Ruxue should have no problem staying alive since she was that Lord's disciple. Bing Shan thought of this and hesitated no longer. His figure flickered as he appeared at one side of the vast space. One-Star Man, you are almost on the same level as the 7 stars. Let me see how strong you really are, Bing Shan said coldly. Haha. As you wish. One-Star Man laughed heartily as he too appeared in that vast space. These 2 powerful experts started their fight. They fought each other fairly and no more dared to interrupt. Now that Bing Shan and One-Star Man were headed for the vast space at one side, the only people left at heaven's horizon were Jian Wushuang and Lang Ruxue. They stood apart looking at each other. Jian Wushuang. I never thought that there would be a day that we would face off against each other. Lang Ruxue looked at Jian Wushuang playfully. I have been waiting for this day for a very long time. Since you took over Wushuang's body and left the Green Fire world tens of thousands of years ago, I predicted this day would come. Jian Wushuang looked at Lang Ruxue coldly and indifferently. Is that the case? I already took notice of you when you entered the eternal chaotic world and made yourself known. At that point in time, I could have killed you easily without giving you the chance to become stronger, much less become who you are today. Lang Ruxue raised her eyebrows and said. Jian Wushuang's face turned dark. He knew she was speaking the truth. Lang Ruxue had been in the eternal chaotic world for quite some time before he came. She had joined the Holocaust sect and had incredible status and techniques. If she had used the power of the Holocaust sect to assassinate him, he would already have died. Do you know why I have yet to kill you and have allowed you to live until today? Lang Ruxue smiled. Wushuang, Jian Wushuang said softly. Smart. Even though I have suppressed that dumb woman's consciousness and she does not usually get in my way, she would resist with all her might if I were to do something that would harm you. This would cause great trouble for me. Hence, I allowed you to continue to grow, Lang Ruxue said playfully. However, I did not expect you to grow so powerful so quickly. By the time I had complete control over this body with the help of my master and the opportunity she left behind, you had already grown, and it was extremely difficult to kill you at that point in time. Even though Lung Ruxue said this casusally, Jian Wushuang's heart was trembling. Rushuang, even though she is suppressed, she is still trying her best to protect me. Jian Wushuang clenched his fists tightly, to the point where his nails were biting into his flesh. That dumb woman is asleep right now. Even if I were to kill you now, she would have no idea. Even if she knew, there's no way she will cause any trouble for me anymore. However, it is still troublesome that we share this body together. I tried to wipe away her consciousness, but I was afraid that I would be wounded as well since we share a common body. Hence, she is still alive. However, Lung Rushue's tone suddenly changed. Jian Wushuang, do you know what the first thing I will do after I reach the absolute beginning divine world is? Jian Wushuang turned pale. Haha. Looks like you've guessed it. Yes, the first thing I will do is to ask my master to help me wipe out her consciousness. Given how powerful my master is, she can wipe her out without having any negative effects on me even if we share the same body. At that point in time, this body will be truly mine and I will not need to share this body with that dumb woman anymore. Long Ruxue laughed hysterically. Jian Wushuang's expression turned extremely cold. An extremely strong killing intent started gathering around Jian Wushuang. What, are you angry that I am going to wipe out your wife's consciousness? Do you want to suppress me? Do you have the ability to do so? Long Ruxue burst out laughing. Jian Wushuang then exhaled lightly. His face became calm and he said, the reason you talked so much was to buy time for the passageway to fully open. If you anger me, it will be much easier to escape into that passageway. Do you think I will fall into your trap? Lung Rushue's smile faded as she smiled once again. Looks like you saw through my plan. So what? Do you think you can stop me? Of course. Jian Wushuang grunted as he attacked. With a simple dash, he appeared in front of Lung Ruxue. The Blood Mountain sword in his hand slashed towards her head with incredible penetrating power. Show! The cold blade passed through Lung Rushue's head, but there were no bloodstains at all. Hee. You really are ruthless. Your wife also resides in this body. You both are married. There is a saying, a couple should have deep affection for each other even if they are together for only a short period of time. You should hold back a little to ensure that your wife's body is not destroyed. Long Ruxue appeared in the space to one side as she said playfully. She is so fast. Jian Wushuang was surprised, but his vision became sharper and more resolute. If the body is destroyed, I can find another one. What I want is my wife's consciousness, her soul. Jian Wushuang said coldly as a wave of powerful sword essence swept out in all directions. Whoosh! The entire battlefield became a vast ocean filled with sword essence. The sword ocean spread far and wide, and Jian Wushuang was the master within this ocean. Jian Wushuang's eyes were bloodshot as the Blood Mountain sword in his hand turned crimson red. Whoosh! A crimson sword light burst forth as it dyed the entire heaven and earth red. This battlefield turned dark crimson red. This sword light stirred the power of the ocean of sword essence and appeared in front of Lung Ruxue immediately. Sword Principle Xian Luo Sanguis Extremis style. The explosive crimson red lights penetrated the body of Lung Ruxue. The terrifying aura instantly ripped Lung Ruxue and the space she was in into pieces. There was no sign of pleasure on Jian Wushuang's face. On the contrary, he took Lung Ruxue even more seriously. What a unique martial art motion. Jian Wushuang stood where Lung Ruxue had disappeared. His soul power detected Lung Ruxue immediately. She was standing in the air to one side of him. Haha. You really are heartless. Lung Ruxue smiled playfully. Her martial art motion is one of the most powerful of all that I have seen, Jian Wushuang thought to himself. No matter how unusual or eerie one's martial art motion was, Jian Wushuang could detect where the person was with his soul power instantly. However, it was difficult for him to detect where Lung Ruxue was when she used her martial art motion, which caused both of his attacks to miss. You have already attacked twice. Now it is my turn, Lung Ruxue said as she radiated an extremely destructive aura. Her jet black hair turned white immediately. Her beautiful irises turned gray. Her aura changed completely. She had originally been an angel in white clothes. She instantly turned into a demon who would destroy the entire world. That destructive aura filled the entire heaven and earth. At the same time, she radiated an extremely cold aura. In an instant, the space-time that Jian Wushuang and Lang Ruxue was in was frozen. Heaven and earth went dead quiet. It was as though they were in hell, as the place was filled with a death mist. Her unique constitution evolved? Jian Wushuang thought as he felt the terrifying death mist. He felt depressed under the effects of the death mist. It was as though he was going to turn into a corpse. Jian Wushuang, this is the first time I've used my power after I completely awakened my unique constitution. You should feel lucky that you'll be the first to experience it. The smile and playfulness in Lang Ruxue disappeared. What replaced it was absolute coldness and terror. Jian Wushuang looked gloomy. From what he knew, Lang Ruxue rarely used her power to fight. At least he had yet to see her fight. No one knew how powerful she really was. Jian Wushuang guessed that Lang Ruxue's fighting power was at the level of a great emperor. But now, without even attacking, just the aura of Lang Ruxue was putting great pressure on Jian Wushuang. This aura was more powerful than that of old monster Jiao or Qin Shi. It was at the same level as Bing Shan's aura. Jian Wushuang, today, I will show you what true destruction looks like. Lang Ruxue looked at Jian Wushuang indifferently. She remained in place as she pointed her finger out in front of her. Instantly, an endless gray mist started to fill this heaven and earth before crashing towards Jian Wushuang like a tsunami. Jian Wushuang used his divine power immediately to stop the gray mist. He soon realized his divine power had been completely suppressed by the silver mist to a 10-meter radius square box around him. There were still signs of his divine power being pushed back. How is this possible? Jian Wushuang was shocked. There should not be anyone in this heaven and earth who possesses a stronger divine power than me. What is the gray power that she just used? Even though it is not as powerful as mine, it still completely suppressed my divine power. Suppression in terms of divine power. This was the first time Jian Wushuang had encountered this situation after he had broken through into the ultimate phase of the 7th step inverse cultivation. Poisonous dragon, Lang Ruxue said softly. Instantly, the silver mist that filled heaven and earth started to gather and form a gigantic silver dragon. This dragon was tens of thousands of feet long and it covered the entire sky. It exhaled a cloud of silver mist before attacking Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang gripped the Blood Mountain sword in his hands tightly. He dashed. A sword light was seen within the gray mist. It was like the first light of day as it lit up the world. The sword light hit the gray dragon as it tore the dragon into half. The gray mist then saturated the air again. You simply suppressed my divine power. It does not affect my fighting power. Jian Wushuang looked at Lang Ruxue coldly. If one poisonous dragon cannot hurt you, how about 10? Lang Ruxue said with a low voice. Instantly, the gray mist started to twirl again as more similar gray dragons were formed. This time, there were 10 of these gray dragons. These 10 dragons brandished their claws as they attacked Jian Wushuang from all directions. Jian Wushuang was not afraid. His figure flashed again as he left eerie shadows in the air. Even though these poisonous dragons were extremely powerful, they traveled too slowly. Jian Wushuang dashed around the battlefield in a weird way before appearing in front of the gray dragons. He swung his Blood Mountain sword at it once again. 10 sword lights appeared and struck the poisonous dragons at the same time. The 10 gray poisonous dragons dissipated instantly. Your attacks are really stylish. However, they're useless against me. Jian Wushuang looked at Lang Ruxue and said coldly, Is that the case? Do you really think that my poisonous dragons are so simple? Lang Ruxue replied. Jian Wushuang knitted his eyebrows tightly. He had a bad feeling about what was going to happen. He then noticed the changes in his divine body. This is poison. He could clearly feel that a large amount of the gray mist entered his body through his pores. This gray mist had come about after the gray poisonous dragons dissipated. Jian Wushuang had been at the center of where all of the dragons had dissipated, hence the gray mist would come in contact with him. Under normal circumstances, the divine power around his body should have stopped the gray mist from entering his body. In reality, it had not. The gray mist was incredibly powerful. It ignored the protection from the divine power around Jian Wushuang's body before it started to corrode everything within Jian Wushuang easily. What a terrifying poison! It corrodes my divine power and my internal organs. It can even corrode my soul. Jian Wushuang turned pale. Jian Wushuang had come into contact with poison before, There were many experts in the eternal chaotic world who excelled in using poison. There were many who had also excelled in using poison back in the ancient past. However, out of all of the poison Jian Wushuang knew, none was as terrifying as what he was experiencing. This type of poison could have killed any divine demons even back in the absolute beginning divine world without the restrictions of heaven and earth easily, much less a mere chaotic realm expert like Jian Wushuang. However, Jian Wushuang understood why Lang Ruxue was able to use such a terrifying poison. After all, Lang Ruxue had a unique constitution. Back in the green fire world, when Lang Ruxuang had controlled her own body, she had possessed the icy bone poison, which was a nightmare for any expert in the green fire world. Now that Lang Ruxue was much more powerful than before, the poison she could use was much more terrifying. What Jian Wushuang did not know was that her unique constitution was Heaven's Mandate Unique Constitution. It was also called Heaven's Mandate Narcotic Constitution. This was an extremely destructive unique constitution. The reason it was so destructive was because of the poison the people who had this constitution could use. Lang Ruxue was far too weak. The poison she controlled was nothing compared to that of other, more powerful experts. If she continued to grow, she could take trillions of lives with a single thought if she could fully control her constitution. At that point in time, one could die simply by being near her for a long time. The Heaven's Mandate Unique Constitution was this terrifying. However, it was impossible for this position to hurt Jian Wushuang even though it could kill divine demons easily. Jian Wushuang was in the ultimate phase of the 7th step inverse cultivation and had the perfect chaotic holy body. No poison, fire, or water could kill him. He was invincible. Initially, the gray poison within his body could move around smoothly. Within moments, it was stopped by a large amount of divine power from within Jian Wushuang's body. It soon cleared all of the poison within his body. In the air, Jian Wushuang opened his eyes again as though nothing had happened. Looks like the unique constitution of an inverse cultivator is much more powerful than I had imagined. You can clear my Heaven's Mandate poison so easily. Lang Ruxue stared at Jian Wushuang with a hint of surprise in her eyes. It had never been her plan to kill or wound Jian Wushuang using Heaven's Mandate poison. If Heaven's Mandate poison cannot harm you, then try this. Lang Ruxue said as a ray of unique light stirred in her gray iris. This light was gray and seemed magical. Soon, the gray light started to change and eventually turned into gold. It was extremely bright and shiny, like two burning golden balls of flame. Heaven's Mandate Golden Flame. A spark of the golden flame appeared in front of Lang Ruxue. Initially, it was only a spark of golden flame. The instant it appeared, it was as though it was lit in the middle of a dry grassland. The small spark instantly lit the entire place on fire. Instantly, all of the gray mist turned into golden flames. The sea of fire surrounded Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang was at the center of the sea of fire. He turned pale when he felt how high the temperature of the golden flame was. The golden flame is really terrifying. Jian Wushuang was sure the temperature of the golden flame was far higher than that of any of the flames he had seen before. Not only was its temperature high, its destructive power was also unprecedented. Most importantly, the golden flame could burn forever under the control of Lang Ruxue. I never thought that, aside from the poison, she could control such a terrifying golden flame. Her unique constitution. Jian Wushuang clenched his jaws tightly together. He did not have much time to think. This was because the golden flame had burnt up the divine power that surrounded him and given him a safe space. The golden flame was not headed for him. Humph! Jian Wushuang grunted as waves of thick divine power erupted from his skin. Once the wave of divine power appeared, the golden flame burnt it into clear air before it continued to head for Jian Wushuang. With the protection of the divine power, Jian Wushuang's divine body was not harmed. He started dashing out of the sea of fire as fast as he could. Within moments, he was out of the sea of fire and had appeared in the air once again. The side of his mouth twitched as he checked himself for injury. I used 20% of my divine power just to prevent the golden flame from touching me on my way out of the sea of fire? Jian Wushuang was really shocked. After he reached the ultimate phase of the 7th step inverse cultivation, his divine power was extremely vast. It would be enough to fully restore his divine body at least 10 times. He had only used 10% of his divine power when he'd battled Bing Shan. fought the experts from the ancient past and restored his divine body once. Now he had used 20% when all he had done was protect himself when he charged out of the sea of fire? How terrifying was the sea of golden flame. Luckily, I am an inverse cultivator. If it was any other expert, even a real divine demon, they would probably have been burnt to ashes, Jian Wushuang exclaimed. Even Lung Ruxue was shocked when he saw Jian Wushuang walk out of the sea of golden flame alive. She then shook her head and thought to herself, I have yet to perfect my control over the golden flame. I cannot redirect it. If not, I can direct the sea of golden flame in the direction of his escape. There is no way he will run out of the radius of the sea of golden flame. Even if he has the body of undying, he will still die. Even though Lung Ruxue felt that it was not easy for her to cast it, much less control it and direct it around. Looks like there is no way I can kill you. Lung Ruxue stared at Jian Wushuang coldly. You cannot kill me, but I can kill you. Killing intent was clearly seen in Jian Wushuang's eyes. Right when he was about to attack, boom, heaven and earth started shaking, and this shaking persisted. Everyone was surprised by this sudden change as they looked over at heaven's horizon. There, a complete and stable passageway had appeared. It appeared, a complete passageway finally appeared. All of the experts from the ancient past who wanted to get into the passageway and get back into the absolute beginning divine world were elated. The passageway has completely opened. Looks like you are out of time. Lung Ruxue stared at Jian Wushuang and said, So what if it had completely opened? All will be all right as long as you do not walk through the passageway, Jian Wushuang said coldly. Is that the case? Jian Wushuang, your understanding of this world is far too shallow. You are not to blame as you are always in this heaven and earth. You have yet to see what absolute beginning divine world has to offer. Even though I only saw that world through the opportunities that my master left, I am already much more well-informed than you. Lung Ruxue smiled coldly. Jian Wushuang, do you think this is all that my master is capable of? Hearing this, Jian Wushuang turned pale as he had a bad feeling of what was to come. At the next moment, who is that? Someone exclaimed as the experts on the battlefield, including Jian Wushuang, looked over at heaven's horizon once again. At the edge of the dark mist, a blurry figure was walking out of the passageway. It was a lady who was over 2 meters tall. She walked out of the passageway and appeared in front of everyone. The black mist around her finally dissipated and everyone could clearly see what she looked like. She was extremely beautiful. It was as though she was a fairy from the fairy tales. Her looks were on par with Lung Ruxue's. Her temperament was the most attractive part of her. She was extremely cold, just like Lung Ruxue. Aside from her coldness, she was very proud. This was the type of pride that only those who were at the highest level of their fighting power would have. She scanned the battlefield with her icy eyes. She did not care about even the extremely powerful and famous people back from the absolute beginning divine world like One-Star Man, Bing Shan, Elder Shihua, and Saint Soul. To her, they were insignificant. She is many of the experts from the ancient past widened their eyes in shock as they looked at the lady in disbelief. Many of the experts gulped down air, not out of lust but because of their fear. Master of Holy Land, it is a Master of Holy Land. The Master of the Holy Land has come personally. Oh my God! These experts from the ancient past were stunned. The Master of the Holy Land, the most powerful person in the absolute beginning divine world. Whatever they did, there would be rippling effects across the entire absolute beginning divine world. In the absolute beginning divine world, the numbers of Master of the Holy Land were limited and one could count their numbers with just the fingers on their 2 hands. This type of figure had come down to this heaven and earth personally? It is her. One-Star Man widened his eyes as he stared at the lady. There was fear in his eyes. He knew who she was and her true identity. She was a true Master of Holy Land. As a Master of the Holy Land, one was on an equal level to heaven's will. Even though One-Star Man was one step away from being one, their fighting powers were nothing alike. Only the leader of the 7 stars, Emperor 13, could hope to go against the Master of the Holy Land. The other 6 stars had to back off when they encountered her. No, there is no way a Master of the Holy Land can come to this heaven and earth personally. That is a consciousness embodiment, One-Star Man said deeply. Indeed, an almighty Master of Holy Land would never come to this heaven and earth personally. This was because even if they came here, they would be placed under the restrictions of heaven and earth and would not be able to use their true fighting power. Under these circumstances, many things could go wrong. The master of the Holy Land was completely invincible back in the absolute beginning divine world. Once one reached this level, they could do anything they wanted as it was almost impossible for them to die. However, there was a big chance that one would die here in this heaven and earth given how powerful the restrictions of heaven and earth were. No master of the Holy Land would dare to mess around with their own lives. Hence, they would send in an consciousness embodiment in their place. However, even their consciousness embodiments were incredibly powerful. Greetings, Master of the Holy Land. Greetings, Lord. The experts from the ancient past greeted the lady respectfully. The beautiful woman ignored all of these people, including Bing Shan. She shifted her eyes and fixed her gaze on Lung Rushue. Master. Lung Rushue still had her white hair, gray irises, and a cold attitude. However, she immediately became more respectful when she spoke to the beautiful lady. Is that her master? Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes as he studied the lady. He felt a pressure like never before. He had felt this pressure from Emperor 13. However, the pressure from this lady was slightly stronger. I am here to bring you over to the absolute beginning divine world. Let's go. The beautiful lady spoke coldly and firmly. It sounded as though she would not tolerate any disobedience. She was one of the most powerful people in the absolute beginning divine world for a very long time. Over the many eons, no one had dared to disobey her as everything she said was an order, not a suggestion. This was the absolute power she had. Yes. Long Rushue nodded her head and started to head towards the lady. Long Rushue took a step back right when she was about to start walking. In the space less than 10 meters in front of her, a sword light that was strong enough to tear even heaven and earth apart sliced the space mercilessly. If she had taken that step out, she would definitely have been hit by that sword light. Huh? You still dare to stop me even in the presence of my master? I do not know if you are really stubborn or really dumb. Long Rushue squinted her eyes slightly as she looked over at Jian Wushuang. Evidently, that sword light had been created by Jian Wushuang to stop her. If you want to enter the passageway, you have to pass through me first, Jian Wushuang said coldly and firmly. How dare you? A cold yell exploded in this heaven and earth. Killing intent was clearly seen within the irises of the beautiful, tall lady who stood beside the black mist. This killing intent turned into 2 flashes of lightning which attacked Jian Wushuang, threatening to turn him into ashes. Jian Wushuang turned around as he swung the Blood Mountain sword, which seemed as though it contained a storm, in rage. Sword Principal Xian Luo, Blast Rainstorm. Even when the Master of Holy Land was here personally, Jian Wushuang would not back down nor bow his head at all. Boom. 2 terrifying bolts of lightning turned the space-time into dust with a loud bang. The incredible sword light was also reduced to nothing. Whoosh. Jian Wushuang's body swayed before he dashed backwards. The tall, beautiful lady remained there. Even I am affected this much by the restrictions of heaven and earth, the beautiful lady muttered. A wave of destructive aura erupted from her and swept out in all directions. Instantly, it traveled trillions of feet. Within this area, heaven and earth trembled as the formation that covered the entire eternal chaotic world was also affected by this wave of aura. The Master of the Holy Land is really powerful. She can affect restrictions of heaven and earth with her own power. Jian Wushuang clenched his fists tightly. Even though the restrictions of heaven and earth were very powerful in this world, it was not invincible. For example, the Blood Emperor had managed to affect the restrictions of heaven and earth with the formation he had come up with over the long time he was here. Then, he had sacrificed the lives of all the experts in the 3 Emperors' world to cast the formation which affected the restrictions of heaven and earth and enabled him to use the power of a divine demon. Blood Emperor required the help of the formation and the blood essence of countless experts to affect the restrictions. However, experts at the level of Emperor 13 did not need to pay any price or help. They could affect the formation with their own power to enable them to use the power of a half-step divine demon. Even though a beautiful lady was only a consciousness embodiment, she could do the same. Furthermore, the fighting power this beautiful lady was displaying was incredible. Even though she is weaker than me in power level, she can suppress me with a casual strike. This is a Master of the Holy Land. Jian Wushuang looked dark. Under the restrictions of heaven and earth, I need to put in more effort to kill you. However, I can still do it. the beautiful lady said as she raised her fingers once again and pointed at Jian Wushuang. A wave of destructive power that made Jian Wushuang breathless erupted from her fingers. A humongous finger made up of entirely gray divine power was formed in the air. The gray divine power gave Jian Wushuang goosebumps. Poison. That is deadly poison. It is the same type of poison that Lang Ruxue has, but it's much more lethal. Jian Wushuang turned pale. He finally understood why this master of the Holy Land would take Lang Ruxue as a lineal disciple and pay so much attention to her. It was because this master of the Holy Land had the same unique constitution as Lang Ruxue. Both of them had Heaven's Mandate unique constitution and could control Heaven's Mandate poison. The poison Lang Ruxue can control can kill any ordinary divine demon. I can use my perfect chaotic holy body to counter it. However, the poison that the Master of the Holy Land controls, was 10 times or even 100 times more lethal even though she was under the restrictions of heaven and earth. Jian Wushuang was sure that his perfect chaotic holy body could not take this poison as it was too lethal. When this finger made up of gray poison appeared in front of Jian Wushuang, slash! A sword light appeared out of nowhere. This sword light had appeared far too suddenly. It sliced the humongous finger into two and the gray divine power started to seep out in all directions. It too was met with sword lights as they were extinguished instantly. Ha! The beautiful lady was caught off guard. She immediately looked towards a space to one side. A figure stood there silently. It is you. The beautiful lady's eyes turned extremely cold. Lord Emperor 13. Jian Wushuang was overjoyed. That is right. The man who had sliced the poisonous finger into two was Emperor 13. The leader of 7 stars, the man who could go even against masters of the Holy Land. Emperor 13, you dare to show up in front of me. The beautiful lady roared in anger. When she saw Emperor 13, the beautiful lady erupted in anger as killing intent saturated her eyes. Why wouldn't I? Looks like your injuries have completely recovered, Xianxia. Hearing this, the beautiful lady became even angrier. Her name was Xianxia. However, not many people knew what she was really called due to her status as a master of the Holy Land. Even if there were people who knew, no one dared to call her by her name. However, Emperor 13 did not care at all. He called her by her name in front of everyone. As for the injury Emperor 13 was talking about, it was the greatest disgrace she had ever experienced since becoming a master of the Holy Land. Many years ago, she had fought Emperor 13. Even though she had had the absolute advantage in that battle, Emperor 13 had still managed to injure her with his crazy sword skills and leave a deep scar on her arm. She felt embarrassed as she had been injured by someone who was not at the level of the master of the Holy Land yet. This was why she had always wanted to kill Emperor 13 badly. The main reason why she had helped out back in the great battle of the ancient past was because she had wanted to kill Emperor 13. However, it was almost impossible to kill someone at the power level of Emperor 13. Emperor 13, thank you for appearing. I can finally wash away the shame from that sword wound, the beautiful woman said coldly. You also said that back in the great battle. What happened in the end? Emperor 13 replied in disdain. He then looked at Jian Wushuang and said, I will help you handle this woman right here. The rest is up to you. Thank you, Jian Wushuang said gratefully. Immediately after, Emperor 13 and the beautiful lady started their battle. The two most powerful people back in the absolute beginner divine world, one who was in the realm of Master of the Holy Land, and the other who had the fighting power at the level of the Master of the Holy Land even though his realm was lower. These two experts fought head-on under the restrictions of heaven and earth at the power level of half-step divine demon realm. Even though both were under very powerful restrictions, their battle was still extremely destructive. Feeling the destructive power coming from these two experts, Jian Wushuang was shocked. However, his gaze became sharper than ever. He fixed his sharp gaze on Lang Ruxue. Jian Wushuang whipped out a scroll out of thin air. The scroll fused into the space around him and disappeared with a wave. Now no one can disturb us anymore. Jian Wushuang looked at Lang Ruxue coldly. Lang Ruxue knitted her eyebrows before relaxing. She said indifferently, do you really think that you can suppress me alone? Well, we won't know if I don't try, Jian Wushuang muttered before falling silent. In the air above, there had originally been a dark and vast space. Now it had been replaced by an extremely vivid and beautiful picture scroll world. There were mountains, there was water. There were 9 extremely large and majestic provinces. Each of them looked extremely realistic. 9 Province Seal. The 5th seal. Jian Wushuang then formed various seals with his hands. From the picture scroll world, a majestic continent appeared with an incredible pressure. The 5th seal of the 9 Province Seal was the strongest seal that Jian Wushuang could cast given the amount of divine power he had. He could cast the 6th seal, but he had to use certain trump cards. Even though Jian Wushuang had only cast the 5th seal, he felt that it was sufficient as there was no way Lang Rushue could take its power. The terrifying but majestic province descended slowly. This province was so large that it completely covered Lang Rushue and the space around her. No matter how unique her martial art motion was, it would be impossible for her to use it under the pressure of the majestic province. I am afraid that you cannot suppress me with just this level of power, Lang Rushue said with coldness in her eyes. If this is not enough, how about now? A ray of killing intent flashed across Jian Wushuang's eyes. There were 9 stars that hovered between Jian Wushuang's eyes. The overbearing bloodline power of an ancient god flowed within him. The 2 ancient god stars at the very top crumbled instantly. Ancient God's secret skill, Star Destruction skill. Jian Wushuang destroyed 2 stars at once as his overall power level rose by a great amount. The power of the majestic province that was descending skyrocketed. Lang Rushue finally turned pale. I am not an expert at exchanging blows using brute power. It will be difficult for me to withstand this attack. There is no other way. I have to use Golden Flame again. Lang Rushue made the decision immediately. Heaven's mandate, Golden Flame. Within Lang Rushue's gray irises, a spark of golden light appeared once again. The light was still slightly gray and blurry initially. However, it burned like 2 golden fireballs within her eyes. A spark of a hot golden flame appeared in front of Lang Rushue. It then exploded and covered the entire space. When the majestic province came into contact with the golden flame, it started to burn at a crazy speed as the divine power that made up the province started to evaporate. At the same time, the sea of flame made up by the golden flame also headed for Jian Wushuang. This move again? Jian Wushuang's face turned dark. He knew how powerful this move was. He immediately channeled his divine power and left the area burning with the golden flames in the shortest time possible. Sure enough, I have used another 20% of my divine power. Jian Wushuang frowned as he whipped out a 7-treasure divine elixir and drank it. With the help of the 7-treasure divine elixir, Jian Wushuang's divine power started to regenerate at an incredible speed. Before long, he had recovered half of his total divine power. Jian Wushuang looked over at Lang Rushue once again. Lang Rushue looked very miserable. She had only gained control of the golden flame recently. It was already very difficult for her to cast it once. This was the 2nd time she had cast it within a short period of time. This time, she had been severely injured by the powerful backlash of forcefully casting this skill. She spat out a mouth of blood which immediately dyed her veil crimson red. She did not fall to the ground. When Jian Wushuang dashed out of the sea of golden flame, she was already headed for the passageway using the martial art motion she mastered. You will not escape. A flash of killing intent was seen in Jian Wushuang's eyes as he pointed towards the space Lang Rushue was in. Ancient God's secret skill, moon-picking skill. Boom, space-time shook. With his immense divine power and bloodline power, the space-time was completely sealed off before it started to collapse on Lang Rushue. What? Lang Rushue was shocked. She had mastered an eerie martial arts motion, but it was difficult for her to move when the space-time around her was sealed off by the secret skill. At the same time, a soft palm appeared out of nowhere. This palm felt as though it belonged to a mother as it headed for Lang Rushue in a slow and gentle manner. Master! Lang Rushue screamed for help. The beautiful lady was in the middle of an intense battle against Emperor 13. Even though she had seen this and wanted to help, she could not as she was too busy fighting Emperor 13, unable to pull away. Get to the area covered in black mist, the beautiful lady said in a low voice. Lang Rushue focused her vision at the area covered in black mist. The passageway was where the heaven's horizon was and where this heaven and earth's limit was. It was within the area where the black mist was. Even though she was still a distance away from the passageway, she was relatively close to the area covered in black mist. I am going to risk it. A flash of madness was seen on Lang Rushue's face as the golden light lit up her eyes once again. The golden flame appeared again. This time, the area it covered was extremely small. It was barely large enough to cover the large hand. The large hand dissipated as the golden flame burnt it away. At the same time, the seal of the space-time around her was gone. Even though Jian Wushuang was right on her tail, Lang Rushue created a small gap for her to escape using the golden flame. Whoosh! Lang Rushue turned into a shooting star as she escaped into the area filled with gray mist. Her face was extremely pale. Third time. The third time is my limit. If I were to cast the golden flame a fourth time, I would definitely die. Lang Rushue's body trembled. However, she was still a distance away from the passageway. Jian Wushuang did not stop as he followed her into this area covered in black mist. Jian Wushuang realized something was different the moment he stepped foot into the area covered in black mist. This area is different from the outside world. The restrictions of heaven and earth are not as powerful here. Jian Wushuang's face turned slightly pale. With weaker restrictions of heaven and earth, the experts from the ancient past, including the beautiful woman, could use a greater portion of their power. This was not good news for Jian Wushuang. At the same time, he noticed two figures walking out of the passageway slowly.